I'm going to get things started here, everybody, and we will have an opportunity here in a few minutes for you to ask questions of our panel. My name is Len Kasper. I'm the new radio play-by-play voice of the Chicago White Sox, and really honored to be with you all to explore the historical and modern perspective of Black athletes going back to the Negro League days to current experiences in amateur sports. Most importantly, how MLB can grow diversity on and off the field. And it's great to talk baseball with about 3 feet of snow on the ground here in Chicago. With us today, wow, what a panel. We have Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Museum. Bob, great to have you with us. Roll Coleman, an ACE alum, a Vanderbilt alum, a College World Series champion, and a member of a great baseball family. Ro, thank you for being here. Del Matthews, vice president of baseball development. Del comes from an amazing baseball family, former White Sox front office executive. And Tim Raines, Hall of Fame outfielder, one of the all-time great leadoff men and stolen base guys, another great baseball family, and one of my favorite human beings. And I'm going to start by embarrassing Rock Raines because 2002 was actually my rookie year as a full-time major league announcer, and it was right near the end of Tim's big league playing career. You took me under your wing, Tim. You could not have been nicer to me, and I'll never forget just how generous you were with your time. But do you remember, Tim Raines, breaking what could have been an historic hitting streak? Luis Castillo hit in 35 consecutive games, guys, and Tim Raines hit a sacrifice fly to win a ball game with Luis Castillo on deck, thereby ruining his chance to hit in 36 straight. You remember that night, Tim? I think you're on mute. I think you might be muted. Try to unmute yourself if you can. I think you're still.
There you go.
Go ahead.
How about that?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me about that night. It was kind of bittersweet, right? You won the game, which is the point, but I know Louis was standing on deck.
I had no choice.
I know.
You know what? It's one of those things that the heat of the moment, you're playing games, and I think in that situation, I forgot all about what was going on, and I'm thinking, I got to do this myself. You know what I mean? And just failed to realize what was going on outside of, Louis. I just didn't think about it. I guess when you compete against another pitcher and he's trying to get you out and you're trying to get a hit, you start forgetting and you start focusing on the task at hand. And it slipped my mind, but I was trying to do what I needed to do.
No, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. And I believe Rick Manning did the same thing when Paul Molitor hit in 39 straight. He won the game with Molly sitting on deck. So it happens. Roll Coleman, tell us about the ACE program from a first person's perspective and just how important it has been to you. I think you're muted as well. There you go.
So the ACE program, I could definitely say it played.
I missed a little bit of that. I didn't get.
Go ahead, Ro.
Played a huge part into where I'm in today, the person I became. My father being one of the founders and helping start up the ACE program, along with Kenny Foreman and Nathan Durst. What they wanted to do for the city and what the ACE has been able to accomplish is unbelievable as far as the opportunities that, of course, that you come with about on the field, but it's more so off the field. For me to be able to go to such a prestigious university such as Vanderbilt and get my degree and win a national championship as a freshman, coming from the inner city, it was definitely I mean, you look back on this, it's always a surreal feeling, but I mean, those things wouldn't have been possible without the ACE program. And I mean, it's grown so much since I've been a part of the program, and I've been able to start my own foundation here in Nashville called Empowerment Pursuit, which is similar to the ACE program in a lot of ways. So, I mean, it's played a huge part in helping me become the man I am today.
Hey, Dell, and then Bob, why don't you guys chime in on Roe's story? And just, it's amazing, right? I mean, talk about paying it forward. He's a perfect example of that. Go ahead, Dell.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's a testament to Roe. He put in a lot of hard work as a young man when he was coming through the program in high school. But I think, what the ACES program has been able to do is provide opportunities for these young men that come from the inner city, that come from Chicago. And the White Sox have done a tremendous job with providing opportunities for these young men. And they get the opportunity, but they have to prove what they have when they get that opportunity. And I think Roe is a classic example of that. He really took the Bulls by the horn, so to speak, and went down to Vanderbilt. And he had his opportunity, but he made the most of it. He worked himself into the lineup, became a starter there, and had a chance to win a national championship. And I would say, most importantly, and what probably all of the ACES and White Sox family are proud of, is the fact that he's able to get his education as well at a university like Vanderbilt. So hats off to Roe. He got a chance to play professional baseball as well. And so really ran the board and is a testament and an inspiration for all of these young people. He was in their shoes and worked hard and got the same opportunity that they're getting now. And so if he can do it, they can do it as well.
No, exactly, Len. And I echo the sentiment. Number one, congratulations to Roe, because he now, not only did he take advantage of the opportunity, he is now reaching back. And I can't overemphasize how important that is. We all want to grow and thrive and do well. And then we have a tendency to forget about the other people who were coming behind us. And Roe has not forgotten. And that's really, really important. But Dale mentioned something that I think is so pertinent to this conversation, and that is about opportunity. When we can create opportunity, people will typically step up and meet whatever those expectations. We have a tendency, we want to lower expectations. No, we need to raise expectations, and our children will step up to meet those expectations. And Roe has done that. And I would be remiss if I didn't say something about his baseball coach, who I think is just a fine human being, and that's Coach Corbin. Coach Corbin brought the Vandy boys here to the Negro Leagues Museum because he wanted all of his guys to understand the history of this game and what the Black experience was like in baseball. And he has continued to find ways to bring diversity into his program. And that is to be commended, because that's not always the case in Division I baseball across this country. And so Roe is a great example of what hard work and dedication and commitment means. And again, he was fortunate enough to be in a program that allowed him to get a tremendous education, play great baseball, and now he's giving back. And that's really, guys, what it's all about.
Hey, Bob, I want you to start this conversation, and Tim especially. I'd like you to chime in on some of your mentors when you came up early in your career. And Bob, it's the historical perspective angle, and it's two things, right? It's the progress we've made should be lauded, while also understanding a lot more progress clearly needs to be made. And so Jackie's story has been told many times. Some of those details, however, have gotten lost over the years. But hearing from Billy Williams, Fergie Jenkins, I know those guys well. The late Ernie Banks, the late Minnie Minoso, the late Hank Aaron. We lost Lou Brock, Bob Gibson. But having those stories preserved forever, so people like Tim Raines, when he comes up, and when Tim's son comes up, and when the Sarge comes up, and Gary Jr. and Dell and Roe, that they can really understand what it was like back 100 years ago, 90 years ago, 50 years ago, in Rock's case, 25, 30 years ago. Those stories are really important, right, Bob?
They are important, and it's never lost on me, Len. You know, the work that we do here at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is so important in helping particularly Black and Hispanic players understand their place in this game, their legacy in this sport. So when we honored Tim a few years ago, inducting him into our Hall of Fame, man, it was a tremendously proud moment for me and for all of us at the Negro Leagues Museum to say that, Tim, the way you played the game, man, you could have played in the Negro Leagues. You know, and it's important that people understand that. And so what I talk about here is the fact, Len, that we celebrate the people who built the bridge. You see, it's rare in our society that the bridge builders ever get any recognition. We celebrate the people who crossed over the bridge. But here at the Negro Leagues Museum, we celebrate the people who built the bridge so that a Tim Raines could move in. And so all those guys that you mentioned who we've lost, I mean, it still hurts me. The amount of loss that we experienced last year with that litany of names that you just rolled off, the Lou Brocks of the world, the Joe Morgans of the world, the late, great Ernie Banks, you know, in 2015, and Minnie Minoso a few months after Ernie Banks. These people that I all knew and loved. And then this year, my all-time favorite baseball player, Henry Aaron. And Henry Aaron was my childhood idol. Rock, every time we went on the playground, I was going to be Henry Aaron. Nobody else could be Henry Aaron but me. And I'm sure the other kids are always like, dang, why Bob always got to be Henry Aaron? But I was Henry Aaron. And you know what? Most of us grow up with sports heroes, somebody that we idolize from afar. And it's rare that you ever get to be touched by those individuals in real life. You don't get to meet them. And in the rare chance that we do, sometimes maybe they don't meet the lofty expectations that we have placed on them. But in Henry Aaron's case, he far exceeded any expectations that this kid from Crawfordville, Georgia could have ever imagined. And so there's a little piece of my heart right now that is still hurting over his loss. He played in the Negro Leagues. He's one of those who transitioned from the major leagues. He crossed over that bridge that those players from the Negro Leagues. Ernie Banks, as you mentioned, we had to push Ernie out. Ernie didn't want to leave the Negro Leagues, guys. He did. All the players said, Ernie, you got to go, because he was afraid that he was moving into a world that he wouldn't know how to operate in. You know, with the Monarchs, everywhere he went, they had a good time, even though they were isolated in their own world. They went to they went to dinner together. They went to the nightclubs together. When it gets to Chicago, it's just him and Gene Baker. All his teammates go home or to wherever their world was, and they were relegated over to the South Side. Now, I'm sure they had a pretty good time over on the South Side, because South Side was jumping then. But, you know, that's what this is all about, guys. It's about honoring those who built it.
Hey, Rock, can you follow up on that? And then Del, I want to hear from you too.
Well, just to follow up on that, you know, most of those names you just mentioned were names that I followed quite closely as a kid. You know, even though my dad was like the guy that my dad was a ball player. He didn't play in the Negro League and he didn't play in professional baseball, but he played in, you know, the semi-pro baseball. We all know about the semi-pro baseball for a lot of black players back in those days. And that's when I really was introduced to baseball. But as I was growing up, you know, you mentioned guys like, you know, Joe Morgan was my idol. You know, Hank Aaron was the guy that I followed the most because I'm from Florida. As you know, there's only a few teams you can get on television back in those days, and we got the Atlanta Braves. So it was easy. It was really easy to follow Hank because Hank was the man. Like he said, everybody wanted to be Hank. I wanted to be all of them. I wanted to be Hank. I wanted to be Willie. I wanted to be Joe Morgan. I wanted to be Lou Brock. I mean, I wanted to be all those guys who ended up becoming great players. But at the time, they were just great players that you watched on television. And, as I was coming up, actually, I had a couple of brothers that played professional baseball. So I was in a family of baseball, even though my favorite sport was football. But we got a chance to see those guys, when I was coming up. As a matter of fact, living in Orlando, I got to see the Twins in spring training. They had spring training in Orlando. So I got to see Rod Carew up close and personal. So, as Black kids, during that time that I was coming up, we had already had a lot of great Black players playing at the major league level, but still being in a small town in Florida, even though Florida's pretty big for baseball, a lot of times you can get caught unnoticed being in some of these small towns. And I was fortunate. I was really fortunate. I was on a good school team, and I was playing in, I forget what it was, somewhere in Florida, and some scouts was out. They didn't come to see me. They came to see someone on the other team. And I was fortunate enough to have a good game that day and kind of show some notice that, hey, we might want to keep an eye on this kid. And that helped a lot. But like you guys said, I mean, Lou Brock, my main man was Joe Morgan. I remember when I was called up to the big leagues for the first time in '79. It was my second full season in pro baseball. And the first team I ended up playing against was the Cincinnati Reds, and Joe Morgan was on that team. I actually felt like a little kid at a candy store walking up to just for an autograph like I was a fan up in the stands. But it was unbelievable to get a chance to finally meet him, knowing that he was a guy that I wanted to be like. And we became friends from that point on. And probably one of my closest friends in baseball, other than the guys I played with a lot, like Andre Dawson, Gary Carter, Ellis Valentine, Warren Cromartie, guys like that I became a kid that was on a team that had back in those days. I remember, I don't know if anybody remember this, but I remember playing on a Montreal Expo team that had 8 Black players on the field. And the only white player on the field at that time was Gary Carter. And I remember those days. It's unfortunately, nowadays it's hard to find teams like that. But when you go through things like that, I think that helped. It helped me a lot. I got a chance to be around a lot of Black players. Got to play with them. Got to live with them. Got to hang out with them all the time. And they showed me the ropes. They really did. They showed me the ropes, and I was fortunate enough to be around those guys to become the player that I became.
Del?
Yeah, to jump in, when you think about heroes, with my father being a major leaguer, my dad was my hero. I love my dad. Loved going to the ballpark with my dad and putting on my uniform and putting on my spikes and being the bat boy and giving him a high five or a salute after he hit a home run. I loved going to the ballpark with my dad, and he was my hero. But going to the ballpark, I got a chance to meet a lot of his teammates. and I fell in love with baseball early because I was playing it and because, you know, I was around my dad, but I got a chance to be around, you know, a lot of his teammates, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Dale Murphy, you know, Steve Carlton, a lot of different guys with the Cubs, Ryan Sandberg and the Hawk and those guys. And, you know, I actually, you know, was really close with Sean Dunston because he was one of the younger players, an African-American player, played shortstop. And so, you know, we would hang around Sean and be in his locker a lot just because he was a little closer in age to us, even though we were kids. But I grew up around the game and a lot of the players were tangible for me. And when I think about the Negro Leagues, I really fell in love with baseball when I began to learn the story of the Negro Leagues and the culture, the rich culture of African-American history that existed within the Negro Leagues, and learning about Rube Foster and the different people that started the league, and learning about the history and the teams. And that's, you know, and then, you know, even with Jackie Robinson and integrating baseball and his impact on the civil rights movement. And really, your history, you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've come from. And, you know, my lineage is in baseball, but that culture and that history of the Negro Leagues is what I really fell in love with because it was so passionate, it was so authentic, and it was so relatable. And so for me, learning the story of the Negro Leagues, learning about the players and the nicknames, and some of the greats and how good these players were. Each of the Negro League players had a story to tell, and that's what's so beautiful about the museum, is that these players have a story to tell, and you get a chance to see it, you get a chance to hear it. And Buck O'Neil, who's over my left shoulder, you know, is the epitome of what the Negro Leagues was, and you know, a transcendent figure in our game. And just to learn about these individuals and hear their stories about what they did, what they went through, and what they were able to accomplish, you know, just makes you so proud to play a small part in the game.
We have a couple of questions here. Bryce has a question. Bryce, are you with us?
Yes.
Go ahead, Bryce.
What advice do you have of African American catchers, since it's not as many in the major leagues?
The question is about African American catchers and any advice. Anybody want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that right away. I would say, you know, in order to catch, you have to really want to catch. You have to love that position. And Bob can speak to Josh Gibson, who was probably one of the best catchers of all time, who was an African American. And we've had others, Charles Johnson and Lenny Webster, that have played in the big leagues. And I would say embrace it and really learn the nuances, practice, listen to your coaches, read, you know, read as much as you can about different aspects of the game. I know a lot of you guys love playing and you'll go to practice, but how are you educating yourselves about the game? As a catcher, you have to be able to communicate well with your pitcher. You have to be a leader on the field. Catching is one of the most important positions on the field, and it's a defensive position first, right? And you have to be selfless, which is an important characteristic of a leader. And you really have to embrace that. And so I would say pick a couple of catchers that you really, really like in the game and watch them, you know, watch highlights, watch games, watch how they move behind the plate, watch how they communicate with their pitchers and what they're trying to accomplish and when they execute, and study and continue to practice and you know, put in the work and good things will happen. But don't be discouraged by what you don't see necessarily, you know, in college or at the big leagues, because at the end of the day, you got to be who you are, and it only takes one. So I would just encourage you to give it your best.
Yeah, no, I mean, I echo that sentiment as well. I mean, you know, dedicate yourself, fully commit to that, to the art of catching. And I think Dale pointed out something that I think is extremely important and sometimes undervalued, because we look at just the physical attributes, what goes on in games. But to become a student of the game, know all the nuances of this game. And from a historical perspective, the catching position in the Negro Leagues was really likely better than it was in the major leagues. Yet it was a position that did not transition when integration occurred because the mindset was they weren't smart enough to play the position at the major league level. And Dale mentioned Josh Gibson. And Gibson is probably the greatest combination of power and average as a catcher this sport will ever see. He was a great signal caller, great arm, and he wasn't the best catcher in the Negro Leagues. Not he was the best offensive catcher in the Negro Leagues, but he wasn't the best defensive catcher in the Negro Leagues. That distinction belonged to a guy named Raleigh Biz Mackey. Biz Mackey taught Roy Campanella how to catch. And Dale Campy came to the Baltimore Elite Giants. Now, kids, it's spelled elite, but it's pronounced elite. You make those Negro Leaguers mad if you call them the Elite Giants. They were the Elite Giants. Campy came to the Elite Giants, kids, when he was 15 years old. Now, let me tell you, he was not your normal 15-year-old. and he's catching professionally. And the great Biz Mackey took him under his wing and taught him the art of catching. And if Roy Campanella was alive today, he'd tell you the greatest defensive catcher this sport has ever seen was Raleigh Biz Mackey. Roy Campanella, guys, would become a 3-time MVP in Major League Baseball. And he started catching when he was professionally, when he was 15 years old. And so that position in the Negro Leagues was extraordinary. Yeah, there was a guy named Earl Taborn. You don't hear his name that much, but to tell you how they put on a show, Len, you know, Earl Taborn, guy would put the ball in play, and you know, the catcher's supposed to back up first base. Earl Taborn Rock would beat the runner to the bag from his catch, and the fans would just go crazy, you know. So that position was a great position in the Negro Leagues. Unfortunately, it didn't move in the major leagues. So we need you. We need you to play that position, and we need you to grow in that position and become this model that others want to emulate and follow. But you know, continue to just work on your craft and study this game with everything that you have.
Great advice. Thank you, Bob and Dell. One more question here, man. This half hour has flown by. Sir Jameson Jones, are you with us?
Yes.
Hey, he's got a White Sox cap on. Go ahead. Smart man.
Outside of being good at your position, what is the next most important thing a player should focus on?
Let's
well, I
ask
think
the
I
Hall
can
of Famer.
tackle that. I
Go
can
ahead.
tackle that. It's a lot of things. Just it's more than just, you know, physical attributes. I think you know, you have to eat well. You have to try to stay in shape, always be in shape, because you know, in baseball, it's the only sport that you play 162 games. You know, you start in February, you end up in November, pretty much sometimes. So it's a long season. It's a marathon. So I think when you're getting prepared for spring training, you're trying to set yourself up mentally and physically to get prepared for a full season, you know, barring any injuries or anything like that, that you're ready to try to play in every ball game that you can. And it's not just, you know, swinging a bat or throwing a ball or catching a ball. It's all of those things all in one. And if you have in your mindset, when you start getting ready for spring training, physically and mentally, you're going to be ready to play the season. And, you know, but from that point to start until the end, you know, you want to try to do all the right things to try to get you prepared to be there, not only for yourself, but be there for your teammates and for that city that you're playing with. So it's It's a grind. And once you get there, you know how much of a grind it is, because coming through the minor leagues, you don't get the hoopla in the minor leagues that you get in the major leagues, and you can't hide. That's one thing about being at the major league level. You cannot hide. Everything you do, people see. And so you definitely have to be try to be on your P's and Q's all the time, and try to do the right things. And but it's more than just being a major league player. You know, I think a lot of times people try to say, you know, we want you to be that person that my son or my daughter can say, you know, I like him, and that's the way I want to live my life. You know, there are certain guys who see it that way, and there's certain guys who don't. But I felt like I was one of those guys that saw it that way. That you know, you want to do all the right things. So you want people to look at you as not just a player, but as a good person as well.
Yeah.
Great question. Great answer. Go ahead, Bob.
And I would say, Jameson, preparation. You know, preparation, when you got physical tools and then you are prepared on top of it, man, you destined for greatness. You know, in my conversations with Henry Aaron, he took such great pride in his defensive abilities. You know, and because he always studied, he was always in the right place. Tim, he always threw to the right base. You know, these little things that sometimes people would take for granted or not expect someone who's a big star to focus in on. And he was such the consummate student of the game. And he's probably underrated as a defensive player, you know, because he didn't play center field. That's the glamour position, of course. And he played a corner outfield. Great arm, great position. He made it look so easy because he was so graceful that some people thought he was out there just kind of messing around because he made it look so easy. But he was always prepared. So Jameson, I would think that would be the other thing, man. If God blesses you with great physical tools, and then you got the mental aspect of this, and you're prepared, man, the sky's the limit.
Great stuff. We have one more question. Peyton,
let me hop in. Let me hop in.
Oh, go ahead, Ro. I want Ro to chime in.
I think more so for kids, y'all age, like we focus on us as a ball player and not more so think about us as outside the ball game. And I think things that you do outside in your daily life are all intangibles into helping you become the baseball player you are. And I think more so at that younger age, especially nowadays where we got so much things that we can go to, social media and things like that, I think more so we need to focus on how to become lifelong learners outside the game. And y'all may not realize that at this age, but all of those things line up together. Like what you're doing on the outside part of the baseball field is gonna show up when it's time to show up in the game, and when it shows up in your work. You may be doing something, you may be getting all your work in the facility, you may be doing well in some games decently, but then you may be messing up in school, and then eventually you may start messing up in the game, or you may be messing up at home, and then you may start messing up in the game, but then you like, man, I'm putting in all the work, but it's not showing. But then that's where you got to go back to saying, like, am I hitting on all aspects of life, just not me as a baseball player? So I think that's what's really important. The earlier y'all can realize that is way bigger beyond the game, the more success I think you will be able to have on the field.
Fantastic advice. Even the best big leaguers retire in the late 30s or early 40s, maybe. They still have half their life to live. So, you know, even if you become really successful at baseball, it's more important to be successful at life. Great advice, Ro. Peyton, one last question if you're still with us. You with us, Peyton?
Question. Yeah. This is for Ro Coleman. How was your transition from being a student athlete at Simeone to being a student athlete at Vanderbilt?
Ooh. Man, I'm gonna keep it all the way 100, dog. It was tough. It was extremely tough, man. I was not prepared. From a baseball standpoint, I could always say I was prepared because, like, it's competition and I love to compete. But we talking about just general aspect of of life and being around different walks of people, and then the academic setting, it was a shocker. Like, it took for me my first semester when I was really down bad within my grades to realize, okay, now it's time to buckle down and go to those resources and utilize them as my help, and not trying to be that cool kid from the inner city of Chicago. Like, I'm on campus with people that own companies, billionaires. You got kids driving Maserati, the brand new Benz, and all those different things. It's like, we talk about wanting to be successful in life. We talk about life after baseball. It took that first semester for me to realize, all right, it's really time to buckle down and get it in for being at the school at Vanderbilt. And I took advantage of that. And everybody that I'm involved with now is all through relationships I built at that school. And it may not be a student directly I was with it, but it may be somebody that was connected through Vanderbilt. And it definitely changed my life. And I say, wherever you all decide to go to school or whatever you tend to do, is just always appreciate the opportunities you have. Like, don't let them pass by, because it's always somebody that will want to be in your shoes. Like, I think I try to go every day in life and try to always find a positive in every negative situation. I really don't like to even call situations negative, because it's always a learning. It's more so of a learning experience. I don't like to use the word loss. Like, it's always a learning experience. And the more you can just think about just being positive and learning from those experiences when it doesn't go your way, I think that's how you're able to have success. And that was something, once I got to Vanderbilt, I took some losses, but then I realized, okay, still a positive. I'm here, so let me take advantage of that.
Great stuff. Guys, we basically have run out of time, but I want to give, and Ro, you started us with this. We'll go Bob, Tim, and then Dell. If you can give us a real quick one piece of advice, maybe 10, 15 seconds. I'll start, and I'll kind of echo what Rose said. Opportunities do happen. Be ready for those opportunities. You don't know how many chances you will get.
Yeah.
And so understand how fleeting they can be. So when that moment hits, make sure you're ready. These guys on the panel, they were ready when their opportunity hit. That's a great advice for everybody in the country. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, and two quick things I want to say. First and foremost, I want to thank the Chicago White Sox for continuing to advocate on behalf of the Negro Leagues. I couldn't be more proud of when I saw that Chicago American Giant flag raised over Guaranteed Rate Stadium. It gave me chills when I saw the video, and I'm just so proud of all of my friends there at the Chicago White Sox for what they continue to do to promote the heritage of our game. Guys, stay true to yourself, be passionate about what you do. This story here, the one connecting point that I talk to all of my young major league athletes about when they come to the Negro Leagues Museum, love of the game. You play this game because you love it. And never lose that love, that passion. That is what will carry you. This is a tough game. If you want to get to Tim Raines' level, man, you got to love it, and you got to be willing to sacrifice to do what you want to do, but you just got to maintain that love of it. And also stay true to the heritage of this game. When you make it big, don't forget the folks here at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Come and see old Bob.
Go ahead, Rock. You got a quick note of advice, just a big picture for everybody.
Well, Bob said a lot. Bob said most of it. I mean, I think a lot of Black athletes, when it comes to baseball, they feel like, they look on the field nowadays and they don't see many of us. And they feel like maybe another sport is better for them. Don't look at it that way. Everybody has an opportunity. If you can play, and you can play deep down in your heart, and like what Bob said, you've got to love the game. When you love the game, no one can tell you that you don't. And especially when you can go out there and prove that you love the game, and never let anyone take that away from you. If you have the skills, if you have the know-how, enough people that can put you in position to get that opportunity, don't let anyone steer you away from that. And I think there's so many things that goes on outside of the game. There's a lot of obstacles out there. Don't let anything come between you and your abilities and what you can do. Excuse me. And believe in yourself. You know, I think a lot of times, you know, we want someone to believe in us. But I think if you don't believe in yourself first, you're not gonna get anyone to believe in you. And like Bob said, love the game, love you know, wanting to be out there, love wanting to play, love not wanting to sit on the bench, and that's important. You know, I think, you know, we have a lot of guys out there now who just want to be on the team. I don't want to just be on the team. I want to be a part of the team, and I want to be a integral part of the team. And it goes a long way. And that positivity is very, very important. You know, you definitely have to stay positive, even when the negative things come up. You know, toss it aside and look at it in a way like you know, we can get over this and we can make this better, and a lot of good things will happen.
Del, you have the final word.
Yeah, you know what I will say quickly, set goals for yourselves and make them high. Set high goals for yourselves because you can achieve your goals if you practice and if you work hard. I'd say hold each other accountable. You've got some teammates on this call, individuals that you guys are playing and competing against and playing with. Hold each other accountable as you guys continue to ascend grade level and summer after summer. And, you know, I think, you know, inspire each other. I see a young lady on this call. She's got her bat right in front of her. That's inspiring. And, you know, set goals for yourself and you never know what might happen. You know, work hard and continue to put in the effort in the classroom as well. That is just as important. I'm sure you've heard it from your coaches. I'm sure you've heard it from your parents. You're going to hear it from me. Put in the same effort that you do on the baseball field in trying to accomplish those goals. Do the same in the classroom, because that's just as impressive and that creates more options for you as well. So I'll end it on the education piece. Again, thank you to the White Sox family. Thank you guys for all joining this call, for the players, the parents. You know, I think you've gotten some words of wisdom today, and hopefully some of you have written some of these things down. But those who practice and those who take heed to some of the things that were suggested today, that's how you separate yourselves. Thank you, Lenny.
Great stuff, everybody. A couple quick things here. Ro is going to stay on this Zoom call and take any questions about his experiences. I know there are a couple of people who would like to talk to him, so hang on. Also, I want to thank Bob. Bob, when we get out of this pandemic, I'm coming to see you in Kansas City.
And I can't wait. Looking forward
I can't
to
wait. Rock, I know you could go 2 for 4 with a walk, 2 stolen bases, a home run. You look great. Good to see you. Del, always a pleasure. Please say hi to your dad for me.
Yeah,
And thanks to everybody for being on this call. Go White Sox, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you,
Nice
Lenny.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Thank you.